Despite my best intentions, I am back. Nothing good has ever come out of February. I have to get some nip tape. Please do not shut off your computer, even though you did not ask for this. Who's really in control? Anybody seeing this? Sorry, radio. Put my thoughts out into the world and then just forget about it. Here's your science moment. As far as I'm aware, you can't transmit it through the Hard Rock Lunchbox. As an adult, I don't really need a straw all that often. Anybody that's ever seen The Mandalorian, as soon as you tell Grogu not to touch something, he's going to touch something. Kanzonian? Birmingham just lost $500 million in grants. Any guesses who Alabama voted for in the past election? That very positive note that North Carolina and Alabama just shot themselves in the foot and just applaud their stupidity. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Despite my best intentions, I am back. It is time for the Hard Rock Lunchbox, and of course, if you're watching on YouTube on Strangerhood TV, it is time for another episode of the Top 20. I am a bit under the weather, as you might be able to see, or certainly be able to hear, but I will do my absolute best to try and pull off this show for you. This is not exactly the kind of job I can call in sick for, because I do not get sick days. Arguably, almost every day here is a sick day, but it is I don't even know, questionably weathered sort of February 13th, 2025. As I've said for my entire life, nothing good has ever come out of February. That is boding to be true one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Only good thing about February is it is indeed the shortest month. And, my nipples are poking through my shirt. I'm going to have to get some nip tape. You listening at home are just going to have to wait till next week to check that out. That is unusual. Like I said, I'm a bit under the weather. I'm feeling like all sorts of kind of off. You can probably hear it in my throat. But listen, we got to get started today right away because when I came in to get started here, I had to do a Windows update, one of those mandatory ones. You know the one. Please do not shut off your computer, even though you did not ask for this. My personal favorite. I'm having a really good time with updates lately because all they're really doing is making my life absolutely worse. I don't know what just happened to the mail on my iPhone, but it's got all kinds of different icons, and for whatever reason, my brain in this foggy state is having literally none of it. So I can't find anything. So I'm just not bothering. I also figured out this week how to set a reminder in Slack. What I haven't figured out is how to turn off said reminder, so I'll be working on that later today. But as I alluded to, we've got to get started right away with what I consider to be the most important part of the show. I didn't get a chance to set the light sticks, so now I'll do it together. Okay. So it's flashing, acknowledging that I am in control. My Borg light here is, my co-host, I should say, is pulsating nicely. Thank you so much. So we're going to go to scenes. Okay, hold on. See, I don't think I ever showed you, but that is what the app looks like, and I got all kinds of choices. So I'm going to go to scenes, mainly because I haven't done cycles yet. You'll see there's no cycles. Thank you very much. So we're going to go to scenes. I mean, we could go to rhythm, but that's just the sound of my voice, and this is as bad as it is. So I could turn it off. See, watch this. Who's really in control? But then it turns itself back on. So we're going to go to scenes. These are some of the scenes I have, okay? So I got that one. I think I'm going to go for the teddy bear today. Oh, no, I'll go for this one in the upper right. So I'm going to see what that does. Okay. So now it's just cycling through colors. But I think one of the complaints I have... Oh, everything is pixelating. I like that. So what I'm going to do is I think I can remove some of these. I know. Oh, I can change directions. Check me out. Oh, I can do brightness. Ooh. Anybody seeing this? I know. Sorry, radio. I'm doing my best. But let me just see if I can make that blue. I'm trying to take away the light colors, because the light colors just don't seem to be cutting it. I'm going to go more blue. Yeah, I like that. Let's do this. We'll get a little more. Nope. No. We can go green. How's green? Okay. So now I'm just going to change the... Whoa. I'm going to change the pace of everything. No? I like this. Is that it? I wish you guys could see this in real time. Okay, that's kind of cool. I don't like that. No. That one's just a... Ooh, that's a slow burn. I like that. No. Make that blue. Make that blue. Alright. So now this is just slow and then off. I don't like that. I need a constant... I need constancy. Consistency? Yeah. Alright. Let's do this one. I like this one. We're going to do this. Okay, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Oh, God. Sorry. I'm going to try and be as not gross as possible, but, I mean, what are we even talking about here? I mean, talk about lowered expectations, all right? I'm lightheaded. Anyone else lightheaded? I'm lightheaded. So we'll get started here with our light housekeeping. So there's a brand new top 20 out. I talk about how I filed my complaint with the New York State Attorney General. By the way, the federal government has just filed a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, apparently against the state of New York. And I got to tell you, like, Pam Bondi, like, our new U.S. Attorney General, is such an idiot. I mean, you want to talk about unqualified. The only reason she got the job is because she was one of the few lawyers that actually stuck with Trump. You'll note she lost the barely case against, in New York about the fraud case. She also stuck with him through the impeachment case, which he lost. I mean, he was impeached twice. I know people don't like to believe that, but he was. He was impeached twice. He just didn't get convicted and removed in the Senate, right? Like, that just didn't happen. So she's hella unqualified, but I literally laughed out loud when I saw her press conference being all mad, like, typical white woman. But she's she filed or is filing a civil suit against the state of New York, which means that Pam Bondi is going to have to go up against Letitia James. Dude, not only should that be going down in the parking lot of a Waffle House down south, but man, Tish James is going to tear her apart. You want to talk about states' rights issues? Whew, this is going to be a good one. I can't wait. I mean, I'll let you know when there's something to follow, but man, I cannot wait. But I filed my complaint with the New York State Attorney General over the data breach at the Treasury Department. I have not heard back, but I have been watching what's been going on in the courts, and Elon Musk and Doge has been prevented from accessing that data. Apparently, they're allowed to do read-only stuff, but like... These are all hackers. These are all 20-something hackers, and I strongly urge you to just check into the people that Elon Musk is hiring to do this job, because you want to talk about unqualified? Yeah. So that's going on. Also, I do talk about pandering to the audience, helping bands by adding them to your playlist. That's super important. I actually have some Revel 9 stuff that I've got on the back burner currently. Like, it's in the warm mode. If any of you have that warming center, I'm just trying something new with the band. I'm trying it completely on my own. I haven't even really gone through it with the band because it's a little more complicated than I can explain. I can barely understand it, but as soon as I figure some of that out, I will let you know. And believing in retractions and all that other stuff. So that's out now. Please like, comment, share, all that other good stuff. I will get to comments probably on this weekend, although it is a tax weekend for me, so yeah, can't wait. Unbacon is my podcast. I have not listened to this in a minute. I have not been outside to walk in so long. I've been sick. The weather's been bad, so I'm just way, way behind. But they do talk about, excuse me, they do talk about Mikey's sleep secrets and the straitjacket swaddle. That's going to be interesting. Change, accountability, and friendship. I want to hear that one. I want to hear what they have to say on it, because that's kind of important. And unlocking connections and all that other stuff. So do check that out. For any and all of you that were at our show on Friday night, I want to thank you for making it just such an enjoyable experience. I definitely had some apprehension going into that show because of the way the bill was shaping up and the way the night was showing up, but our friends, family, and fans really turned out, and I super appreciate it. It was a very, I consider it a very successful show, but for me personally, it felt really good and something I was in desperate need of. I was having a really horrendous day, and it was just more kind of shoring up what I've been saying about how continuing on this particular path with music and live performing, like, it really is some of the greatest moments of my life to be up on stage and doing what I love to do. And as I've said repeatedly, like, I really believe that this is my purpose here, like, not in a Steve Martin special purpose sort of way, but it really feels like when you're in the zone of doing what you're supposed to be doing, like, there is a certain feeling to it, and that is where I feel like I am doing my best work, the Lord's work, as it were, if you're, a believer in that sort of thing. So, while it is true that I could still perform without an audience and stuff and probably come up with some sort of fulfillment for that, there really is nothing quite like performing for people that appreciate you and the work that you're doing. So thank you wholeheartedly from me to you, for everybody that showed up, and for everybody that couldn't make it but still, drop me a note or whatever wishing me luck on the show. Super appreciate that. Thank you so much. This one's for you. In other news, our next booked Revel 9 show is April 26th. That'll be local too. We are looking at a couple of away shows that may or may not happen. I've turned down a couple of shows because of blackout dates and because the venue just really isn't right for us. And now that we are starting to reclaim some venues here locally, we'll be able to be a little bit more selective about when and where we play. Plus, I want to make it a good experience for us and for everybody else. I was actually just talking to producer Dan just a few minutes ago, saying that I really need to figure out the plan for this year. I really don't have one, and that's not really good for me or the band as the band leader, so I am going to try and come up with one. We have been floating certain ideas of like what we wanted to record and what we want to accomplish this year, but I'm pretty sure a band meeting is going to be in order at some point, so maybe we'll just do that and kind of figure out what it is we want to do, what we realistically can do, and then of course I will communicate that here every week on the box. So again, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. By the way, that was my first time back at Amityville Music Hall. I have not seen many places get a facelift like that, but man, it was really glorious. Like, it is such a nice venue now, and the staff is just fantastic. It is the exact opposite of the last time I performed at Amityville Music Hall, and I am super happy to be able to count that back in a place that we're going to be playing again. So look for us more often there. And, of course, the other places like Beery's, Whiskey Rocks, and Village Pub will probably just be our local haunts for now. We might consider venturing out to a VFW hall just for the fun of doing it, but I can't say for sure that we're going to do that. And, of course, we are always open to everything that anybody wants to offer to us, so keeping our schedule kind of light and open is going to help with that. So enough about Revel 9. And we'll just go from there. I do want to take a quick political moment because there's some stuff happening that I think is super interesting politically. By the way, if you want to follow me, I am now on Bluesky because I won't be on Twitter anymore. I wasn't really tweeting all that much anyway. Even before Elon took over, it wasn't really my area. But I think I'm going to be doing more Bluesky stuff than I am on Facebook. I'll still go on Facebook and want to pick on stupid people because it's just super easy and I enjoy doing that. But I'm getting tired by the level of stupid I'm getting. It was completely one thing to just get arguments back, but like now I'm just getting absolute stupid. And I know I say that before, but like this level of stupid is even getting more stupid. But I will say, so you can follow me on Bluesky. I'm at gdavy. Whatever Bluesky is, I forget. But you can find me there, and I'll probably be posting a lot of my nonsense there because I think the discourse will at least be better. Who knows? I really don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. Not that I have that kind of time, but I do have time to just put my thoughts out into the world and then just forget about it, because that seems to be what I do best. But in other political news, I think one of the most heartwarming things I heard today, briefly, because I really could barely move this morning. I am way deep in a NyQuil coma, which is why this rambling is probably going to be worse than normal. By the way, thank you all for the birthday wishes. I have not had a chance to respond to most of them that are on any sort of social media. Generally speaking, if you text me, I was able to respond to those, or message me directly, I was. But I am running so far behind. I think the bulk of my audience would understand what it's like to work under the influence of cold medication. It is like crawling through molasses. So it's just taking me a little while to get everything done. But thank you for all your birthday wishes. I have seen and heard, I think, all of them. So thank you so much. I'm not a big birthday guy. As I said, probably half a dozen times. Like, my birthday just became a traumatic experience over the years in my childhood. And because of that, it's just not a big deal. It's another spin around the sun. My general feelings about February don't help it, and all that other stuff. So anyway, thank you. So again, the most heartwarming thing that I heard today, as I was just passively just watching some news, is the fact that one of the things that the Trump administration has been doing and did first, not to be confused with helping the economy, because inflation is now up for January. Inflation went up in Trump's first month in office, so that's great. Not really, that's sarcasm. So it's up to 3%, even though it was hovering around 2%, which is where we want it. So he's already screwed stuff up, which is great. So instead of dealing with the high price of gas and the high price of utilities and the high price of eggs and the oncoming bird flu problem, which I am not an alarmist, but I will tell you that bird flu has now jumped into cows. So once viruses start jumping species, you may not know this. And here's your science moment. Let me just... we are a species. So when it starts jumping from one species to another, it's just really a matter of time before it finds a way to jump into our species. So bird flu, while I'm not expecting it to be a pandemic, because we do have a lot of resources to protect against bird flus and stuff like that, it is something to keep an eye on. I do not have the flu or the bird flu. I just have a solid cold, so let's not worry. And as far as I'm aware, you can't transmit it through the Hard Rock Lunchbox, although that would be something, I think. So aside from that, and Trump's war on paper straws, which I find ridiculous, like, single-use plastics are just a bad idea, and we as a people in the world should kind of get beyond that. I do understand that people do not like paper straws. I'm not particularly fond of them either, but also as an adult, I don't really need a straw all that often, so I don't know. Seems silly to be wasting time on that. But one of the things he has done is he has cut off a ton of federal funding for a very small relative amount of money. Now, keep in mind, like, we in the United States run at a deficit we have for decades, which is bad, right? Like, if you run at a deficit at your house, you'll lose your house, your cable will get shut off, your lights will get shut off, right? Like, we all understand budgets. If you spend more than you have, then you don't have any money, right? So the United States doesn't do that. We just keep borrowing, so we're operating in a deficit. Which is why, if I wasn't saying it last week, which is why I think the Sovereign Wealth Fund, although a good idea if you have the money to do it, is a terrible idea if you don't have the money to do it, because you're borrowing money to put in something else. Like, that just, you have to have a really good reason to do that, and I think it's a bad idea. But so they've cut off all this federal funding, which amounts to, like, very, very little, like point percentages of the federal budget. They haven't done anything with military spending or SpaceX spending or any of the big things. They are proposing to go after Medicaid, which I find interesting. They're also proposing to raise the retirement age for Social Security, which, just so you know, is not helping us any. It is just a Social Security cut. Money that you were promised that you'd be entitled to at a certain age, you're now not able to get it. That's a Social Security cut, right? They're cutting Social Security. Don't be fooled by their rhetoric. That's what that is. But they have managed to cut federal funds, USAID, probably more famous than anything else, but they've also frozen all federal funds for grants and stuff like that. Now, a federal judge has told the Trump administration that they can't do that, but as anybody that's ever had a toddler, or anybody that's ever seen The Mandalorian, as soon as you tell Grogu not to touch something, he's going to touch something. So even though they told him to not do this and that he couldn't do this, he's done this anyway. So here, I keep touching my chest because it really is heartwarming. So here's two things that just like made me feel really good about this. The first of which is the USAID cuts. So a lot of what USAID, despite all their rhetoric about trans comic books in Peru, which is just blown way out of proportion, by the way, a lot of what USAID does is vaccines and food to starving third world countries, right? That makes sense. Now, there's a lot of people in America, a lot of Americans, and a lot of good Christians that don't really care that people are starving in the rest of the world. I don't care, right? Like, you can feel however you feel about that. Me personally, I have no problem sending food to places that are going through famines, especially when that's climate, related and stuff like that. I think it's important. I think it's kind of the least you can do. Like, if you have the food, send the food over, right? Americans waste more food than anybody else on the earth, and we might as well send food over. But here's the cool part. So that food that gets sent overseas to these starving countries are grown, food is grown here. And a bulk of it, say $2 billion worth of it, is grown and sold by, Kansas farmers. So Kansas, which is a solidly red state, has just voted in an administration that has taken $2 billion out of the Kansonian annual surplus or income or revenue for those farmers. Those farmers are in a lot of trouble right now. Now, to be perfectly honest, I think what will end up happening is the Trump administration will give them subsidies, which is exactly what the Trump administration did last time farmers got in trouble. Because in the Trump first administration, when he put tariffs on China put tariffs back on us, and they targeted specifically foodstuffs, which China imports a lot from us. So when they do that, they end up buying less of our foodstuffs because that's what tariffs are meant to do, which means the farmers couldn't sell their stuff overseas to places like China. So the federal government had to step in, and even though they were able to bring in like $89 billion or something in tariffs, they ended up doing something. Please do not quote me on this statistic, NyQuil, coma, something like $75 to $80 billion in farm subsidies because those farmers were losing that money. But it just makes me laugh so goddamn hard that all these farmers that voted for the Trump administration are now finding themselves out $2 billion because in the first 100 days, one of the most important things was to not ship food around the world to starving people, and that has a cost here at home. So those Kansas farmers, this is what you get for being stupid and voting against your interest. Now, that's only my second favorite thing from today. My first favorite thing today is about the federal grant money. Now, the federal grant money, especially places like National Institute of Health, spend a lot of money on research. In this country, most of our research is privately funded by Pfizer and Merck. Every pharmaceutical company you've ever heard of, they fund their own research, which is why R&D is so expensive, and that's why they charge you so much for medications that don't actually cost that much. R&D costs a lot. I'm not here to argue whether it does or not. But one of the other things that do research in this country, something we tend to trust a little bit more, are done through universities in this country. Really grand levels of education in our country, like the better universities in our country do some of the better research. And those institutions are not just California and New York and Massachusetts. Like, some of the best institutions doing research are in red states, because as dumb as a lot of red states are, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, like, educationally speaking, the red states are almost always lower than the blue states. They do have some really good universities. North Carolina, for example, has stuff like University UNC, North Carolina State. I think Duke is there. They do a lot of research, but one of the top research places in the deep red South is the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Sorry, Binghamton's in New York. right? So in Birmingham. So Birmingham just lost $500 million in grants because the Trump administration just froze all that money. You know how many jobs that equates to? It looks like it's going to be upwards of 100,000 jobs at the University of Birmingham that money is responsible for. Any guesses who Alabama voted for in the past election? Yeah, over 60% for Trump. So congratulations, Alabama. Not only are you hovering below 45th in education, you have now done one of the dumbest things there is to do. Although North Carolina does get 2/3 of its money from the National Institutes of Health and the other federal grants that fund research there. Their research money, not other stuff, although I don't necessarily know what there is to do in North Carolina besides that. But yeah, all that money is costing these states hundreds of millions of dollars, which is costing them hundreds of thousands of jobs. So again, for all of those in my listening audience, of which I expected to be goose egg, that decided to vote against their own interest because they really didn't want a transgender male, I guess, playing sports. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there have only been 2 lawsuits filed for 2 individuals that have transitioned into a woman or identify as a woman and want to play in women's sports. That is a very low percentage, and although I agree that all human rights should be taken seriously, the boogeyman that it has become on the right is so blown out of proportion. Like, you are really much more likely to get attacked by Bigfoot than a transgender woman in sports. But apparently that's their big thing. They don't like sharing bathrooms with people. I don't know why. I've shared bathrooms with dudes my entire life. I understand if you had a bill against that. Like, if you're sitting there going to the bathroom in a shared bathroom with somebody that just went to Arby's, like, yeah, there should be a law against that for sure, but nobody seems to care about that. That's only a concern of mine. But yeah, all these people just voted against all their best interests because they didn't realize what was coming. And the single greatest part of both of these things, the Republican senators from both North Carolina and Congress people from Alabama, both were like, oh, no. I don't think the Trump administration needed to target us. And while that is certainly possible, that they'll only turn the funding back on for the red states, I would love to see the lawsuits that come from the other states after that, because that'll be absolutely glorious, because you really can't do that in this country. And once the states, with all their states' rights, start leaning into the fray, I think we're going to see some real interesting constitutional stuff. But why don't we just end on that very positive note that North Carolina and Alabama just shot themselves in the foot and just applaud their stupidity because it's worth it. Yeah. Great job, guys. Excellent job. So I've done enough talking. I am super winded and lightheaded now, and I think that's probably about all for me. So why don't we just get to some music? As far as I can tell, Playing Dead took the week off from releasing new music this week, which means I get to go back to my favorite one from them to start the rest of the show. So here's You Can't Say No on the box.
Today, Saturday morning, you've already gone to work 'cause we've got